All right, looks like we're ready to get going. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining Vicom and Lenovo for this special event, which is our hybrid cloud uh, hyperconverged virtual beer tasting. We are very much looking forward to it today. Please note that we will be recording this event today, but just the presentation portion or so, the first 30 minutes or so. My name is Andy Jonak. I am Director of Business Development for Vicom, and I'll be co-hosting the event today. So we are Vicom, we are part of Converge, and we're part of a national platform of regionally focused software-enabled hybrid IT solution providers in the US and throughout Canada, delivering IT-leading solutions and services to our customers. And as most everyone knows by now, Vicom was acquired by Converge Technology Solutions back in January, something we're all really excited about. So I want to welcome and do a shout out to the extended Converge team, and their customers who are joining us today. So welcome everyone, as we're now one big family. So today's event is hosted by both Vicom and Lenovo, and we've been working with Lenovo for many years, one of our most important strategic partners, and we represent all of their solutions, including the hybrid cloud and HCI solutions that we are going to talk about today. So co-hosting the event today with us today is Danny Dorado, who's a channel manager for Lenovo's data center group. We've had the pleasure and privilege of working with Danny for a very long time. So Danny, if you would please just go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe say a few words about our partnership, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, Andy. Thank you. This is Danny Dorado, Channel Manager for Lenovo Data Center Group, supporting Vicom. I've worked in some capacity with Vicom, I'd say, over my entire IT career, going over 20 plus years. I've been privileged to kind of live how they've adapted, transformed, and succeeded in this very competitive space throughout the years, and continue to really redefine themselves. And and luckily, I also cover Converge, so I continue to keep supporting Vicom. So I'm very happy about that. At Lenovo, we're a channel-first company, meaning that we are very lean and drastically outnumbered out in the street in terms of our competition. So we absolutely need our channel partners as an extension of us, essentially. I mean, so that's how I consider them. So it's my job to educate, fund, and support Vicom and other endeavors around the Lenovo Center Group. So with that, thank you, Andy, for a great event today.
Terrific. Thanks, Danny. So now let me introduce the others that are part of the event today. First, let me introduce Sachin Malik of Lenovo. Sachin is Director of Product Management at Lenovo and is responsible for driving the Think Agile portfolio and is focused on hyperconverged and cloud infrastructure. Sachin has 22 years of experience in various product management and engineering leadership roles and in delivering cloud services. Interestingly, Sachin holds 10 patents in the areas of file systems and storage. So Sachin is our featured speaker today, and we're very happy to have him with us. Also like to introduce Matt McDevitt, who's one of the founders of the Tuckahoe Brewing Company. Matt is a high school English teacher who founded Tuckahoe Brewing in southern New Jersey in 2011 with 3 of his friends. He started the company as the head brewer and now is in charge of brewing operations. So we're excited to have Matt with us today. So we'll be turning things over to Matt after our presentations to lead us in our beer tasting. And Matt later really want to ask the question on how you went from an English teacher to owning a brewery. So I'm sure there's a great story about that. We look forward to hearing that. So let me just go through the logistics for today so everybody understands what's happening. Event is scheduled for a little over an hour today, and we're between an hour to an hour and a half total. And as I mentioned, we're recording just the presentation portion of our session, the first 30 minutes or so. But our presentations take anywhere from 30 to 35 minutes, including me speaking here. And then we'll leave some time at the end of the presentation for questions and move on to our beer tasting with Matt. But if you have any questions during the event, we have parked some time at the end for Q&A, but you can feed stuff up through chat if you have any questions too. So we're going to keep everybody muted throughout the presentation, but everybody can mute when it gets to the Q&A. Also, we'll ask everybody, you can go ahead and keep your cameras off during the presentations, but we will ask everybody to turn them on during the beer tasting. So we hope that you find the event fun and the information presented today to be intriguing, but most importantly, useful, as what we're discussing today is something that we see as so important to the firms that we're working with and talking to right now, which is on their hybrid cloud and multi-cloud strategies. So with that said, thank you again for joining us, and let's get going. Take a quick minute to let you know who we are. So and we are part of Converge, and our areas of focus and domains of expertise include advanced analytics, cloud, which of course we're talking about today, cybersecurity, managed services, digital infrastructure, and talent solutions. The solutions we offer as part of our portfolio can help organizations wherever they sit in regard to the maturity level of their IT environments, their solutions, or their overall needs. So IT environments today are increasingly complex. We all know it, especially with what's happened today, with everybody working remotely, with so many people working from home. We have these complex multi-cloud environments and infrastructure that need to be deployed, supported, and managed. And given what's happening today, we see that firms are looking for some specific things. They're looking for solutions that provide for the most efficient operating models, but they're also looking for solutions that can be deployed and scaled quickly and adapt to changing requirements rapidly as new needs arise. And in the end, firms are looking for ways in which they can focus on growing their businesses versus focusing on managing and supporting their IT. And that's why firms continue to embrace cloud and HCI solutions. But what types of cloud and HCI solutions and strategies should you consider for your specific environment? Well, this is where Vicom and Lenovo can help, and that's what we are going to talk about today. So now what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn it over to Sachin Malik, again, with Lenovo, who's Director of Product Management, and he focuses on hyperconverged cloud infrastructure. So Sachin, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
Great, thank you, Andy. Thanks for the introduction. I'm going to stay in between beer and beer tasting. So what I want to do is go over really what we are here for. What do you gain out of trying to go towards cloud computing, when you should go there, and some ways to get there. So let me share my screen. So if you look today, most people are looking at cloud and as a service and looking at how do I get there. The part that I'm going to discuss is based on the 4 or 5 years of journey with hyperconverged. What I've seen people adopting public cloud, going towards private cloud, building out hybrid, and why do they do that, and who are the ones who are successful. So that's the 4 or 5 years of my journey on this with our customer that I want to share with you over here. Thanks for taking time to go through this with me. The first thing when we talk about cloud is not to talk about cloud. It's about talking about what do you want to do? What are your business goals? So when we look at customers and talk to them, what we find is most customers are classifying things into 3 buckets. They're looking at their current IT investments in the latest technologies and saying, what is it that I want to keep the way it is? I may have some applications, I may have certain things I'm doing where all I need to do is get to the next generation of technology. Intel comes out with new processors, you can probably consolidate twice as much by going to that. So that really becomes one of the important things, and that still becomes a majority of where things are today. The next set of things that happen is, as IT is providing this service to a business, businesses are in this world where things are becoming very complex and they need to move very fast. So there may be a new application they need to roll out and they have only a few months to roll this out. They can't really wait for new infrastructure to be set up in that kind of time environment. Also, a lot of these environments have challenges where you don't know what the workload would be. You know, okay, at a minimum, I'm going to have this much workload, but that could scale up or down. And then a lot of the businesses are saying, hey, just like I can go to a public cloud and I can just start using, is there a way to provide me self-service? Can you provide me a way that I manage my own environment, and IT is more like a broker and in the back end? So what we see is a lot of customers go on this journey and they start with the middle bucket and they will look at some of their applications and say, these are actually closer to the right-hand side where I want full cloud-like functionality. So how do you get there? The easiest way to do this is actually to get on this journey, or if you look at the top, usually people have a 3-tiered infrastructure where they have the stuff that I had on my left-hand bucket, where they're customized solutions and they work well. But then as you look at your applications, the ones that are ready to be modernized, the easiest way to jump on that is to hyper-converge infrastructure. So those of you who have known about Nutanix or VMware or Microsoft, they each have solutions that allow you to consolidate your storage and compute into a server, and then you can manage everything through vCenter or through Windows Admin Center or through like one interface. And you don't need a lot of different interfaces to manage this environment. And if you add in functionality that could be either on or off premise to manage it as a service, you essentially end up in a cloud-like environment. And I'll go deeper into this at the end, like how does this really look? What I also wanted to make sure folks are looking at is this journey actually doesn't end here. So once you are on a as a service cloud, the question becomes for a lot of customers is they have these edge locations. It could be like a retail customer, or it could be manufacturing operations, or it could be a doctor's office where they have a lot of these end locations, which initially were only dealing with like billing, printing. But now if you think about it, it's like a whole different set of challenges they have. They're actually using video to do analytics on how my shelves looking on the retail and order something if it's going to be out of capacity. Can I move my doctor's office to be more like a hotel where I'm scheduling things? I'm giving the people who are waiting the right level of information. And I basically have an experience which makes them feel they didn't come here to be waiting for 45 minutes. They're actually having an experience similar to what they would really like to get into. Now, if you start going even further, like people have iWatches, right? So every home is becoming smart home. Every manufacturing operation has so many sensors. So all these sensors need to be tied into your edge device, and the data collected goes into cloud. So all this connectivity is important. And as you go down this journey, you should select a vendor that will support you on this end-to-end infrastructure, not just give you a point solution. So if I look at what we have dealt with today, so when we talk about modernizing, the easiest way to modernize infrastructure is using hyperconverged, as I discussed. Hyperconverged is essentially, if you're a VMware customer, it's a feature that you can turn on your server to use internal disk. If you're Nutanix, you can do the same. Or if you're with Microsoft, you can do the same. And essentially, the infrastructure becomes one place where you can manage, and you can add in additional servers as you go along if you have more capacity. So it's a scale as you go model. So once you are in this modernized phase, the next one becomes to looking at what other things should I bring in. The first application is really like a teaser. Okay, this application is working well. The return on investment of going to a model like this in terms of simplicity, in terms of agility, so much. Folks start looking at what do I bring in next. And then actually that same environment you can transform to provide a cloud experience, whether you're providing it on-prem or you are in one of the public cloud, and you can tie all that together. So the journey that we usually see is with applications can be kept into these buckets. So the first application could be VDI if you're looking at healthcare or call center, or in general, you have a need to give your employees a desktop infrastructure that's centrally managed. A lot of times people start out with that. The other one we see is general purpose virtualization. So if you have a bunch of applications that are running and you want to consolidate all into one environment, that's a great story. And then we talked about remote offices, edge, or even if you're an SMB, you can go all in to this kind of environment. As we start looking at hyperconverged, we have started seeing applications like SAP HANA, even blockchain with Kubernetes or with you're trying to do cloud native, most of the development is moving towards microservices. It's an easy way to combine your microservices container environment into what you're using to host your virtual machines and have it all under one control. And then you can expand into hybrid cloud and multi-cloud architectures. So one of the things which I hear less about today, but usually there used to be this thing about going into a virtualization first strategy. Now, back in the late 90s, probably till 2010, then it became a cloud first strategy. And when this thing started, the most important cloud vendor was one, right? So everybody thought about cloud as public cloud with AWS. Right now, people have become a lot more sophisticated. When they think about cloud first, there is all these options. You have the DIY, you can make your own private cloud, you could host it with someone, you could have an off-premise, and there's a lot more options to get there. But instead of looking at where is it gonna reside, the successful journey is about what do you wanna achieve. So cloud in a nutshell is around providing on-demand dynamic IT agility, right? So just like if you are ordering an Uber or a Lyft, it is the flexibility you have. When you want something, you get it. If you want a limo, you can order a limo. If you want a small car, you can order that. You can decide how many miles you want to go. So that is really what your end business users are saying. I want IT infrastructure to run an application, and I want it when I want it, and I will tell you how much I want it for. So when you look at this, you can actually further stratify that usage. What we see is when people are asking for this on-demand type nature, usually there are like 4 different buckets you can put those applications into. Now, one of the bucket which usually comes up is everybody wants 24/7 operations, and it's not easy to get there because you need at least 2 places for your data to be, so that if one place goes down, the other is up and running. So you can achieve that by creating a secondary site, whether it can be in a public cloud or by using environments that make your secondary site very easily talk to your primary site. The other one, which is that classic example of scalability, like whether it is end of quarter processing, you're launching some marketing launch where you need a lot more capacity to support it. Could be the classic Thanksgiving thing. So that use case comes up very often where you need elastic capacity. The third one we talked about is cloud native operations. Every company is starting to look at new applications being built on containers because those applications can be rapidly transformed. You could have a front end where you are changing out, say, how your shopping cart appears while the rest of your application keeps up and running by using cloud native. So this rapid service delivery, there's a lot of functionality present in some of the public clouds and also in the marketplaces of these clouds that you can combine with your existing infrastructure. And then in general, any application which needs to be run on demand is a great candidate to get into cloud. So then the question becomes, how do you get there? So you know what you want to do in a cloud, but how do you get there? And this is where the easiest way to build a cloud is having a common building block. So if you look at whether you're a customer or you're supporting somebody's IT strategy, is to look at what flavor of virtualization skills do they have? What did they do when they did virtualization first strategy? Or are they already on a cloud journey where they may be a Microsoft Azure or Office customer and then looking at what they want to do next and what are their skill sets? So usually the most common things you'll see are these 3 vendors. You'll either see somebody has vCenter and they have VMware admins and they want to stick with that kind of skill set. Nutanix has grown quite a bit in the last 8-9 years. They're a pioneer in this area, and their promise is simplicity. They call it invisible infrastructure. So you don't really need to learn anything. You can just use that environment. And with Microsoft, there's a great story. They have so many services on Azure. Now you can actually make it hybrid very easily. If you have Windows Server skills, you can actually go on this journey and you'll get Azure-like functionality on your premise. One of the things that Lenovo adds on top of this is actually a couple things. One is the Think Agile brand that you see here. That's actually built to make everything simple. So we work with vSAN, with Nutanix, with Microsoft, ensure what you're gonna get is gonna work day one. It's gonna work day two when there's an upgrade on any of the operating systems or virtualization layer. Now you have one number to call for anything that goes wrong. And we also have tools that help deploy this thing and have your first application running in a few hours in a lot of cases. What we combine that with is what we call TrueScale. So if you're looking to, say, go into a metered model of being charged for this kind of infrastructure, you want to pay by the drip on how much is being used. That is a product we came out with, TrueScale. We have a fairly good way of metering and providing this in any of these environments. So if you are looking at an OpEx model instead of a CapEx model, that's the right way to go, and we can help you get there. So that's really it. We, as was mentioned by Danny, we don't go this journey alone because our motto is to be a trusted partner, not just to our customers, but to our channel partners, distributors, and Vicom's a great partner in that case. So they know how to get you there in this journey, and they'll partner with Danny and our team to get you there. Thank you. Any questions?
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Sachin. Let me see what I'd like to do. I'm going to grab the ball back and then open it up for some formal questions as well. Okay. Got it. Sachin, everyone, you can see my screen share again, correct?
Yes.
Just making sure. Excellent. So again, thank you, Sachin. Great presentation. We would like to open the bridge up for questions. If anybody has any questions about anything that was discussed today, be it from a Vicom or a Lenovo perspective. And being a Zoom, we can't unmute everybody. So if you do have a question, please feel free to jump in and share. Okay. Well, if anybody has any, they can certainly bring them forward. But Sachin, I will say that there are two things that we generally, in the conversations that we all have with our customers around cloud, that I know Lenovo sees as well. So, a real basic kind of fundamental one is what would be some key takeaways for someone looking to adopt a cloud model? So perhaps you can go ahead and answer that, please.
Sure. So I think that key takeaway is look at cloud as an outcome, not a destination. And also look at cloud as what you want to achieve overall for your environment. So that's on-demand agility. And that's not just linked to the cloud itself. You should look at, is it going to be connected to remote locations or to edge devices? Do you have an IoT strategy being put in place? And then choose a technology set that you are comfortable with, and then go down that path. The easiest way to build cloud is using hyper-converged infrastructure for what you're going to have on-prem or hosted. And all of the vendors I talked to have a way to get you to hybrid so that you're not stranded with just a private cloud strategy. You actually get a true hybrid cloud strategy. And it's pretty simple. You start with 3 servers in your environment, if that's the workload you have, and it comes with management software that can hook you to a public cloud too. You add in another set of applications, you have an M&A or any other reason where you need more capacity. The scaling block actually is one more server being added with this in it. So essentially, you have a building block strategy. And as you were talking, I have experience in the storage world where it took several months of planning on what kind of capacity we need and then right size it for performance, for everything. And that by the time you are up and running, your customers, your end users may need something which you didn't even plan for. So all that goes out the window. You start small and you scale as you need, and the environment's gonna go and scale with you and give you hybrid cloud. So that's very promising, very easy to get to. Choose your first application, try it out, and you're off to the races.
Oh, excellent. I think the next logical sort of question is, and this is a concern for a lot of customers in terms of, do they have to relearn things? So what kind of skill sets do you need in order to move in this direction?
Yeah, it's actually a funny thing. Like all my buddies who were storage architects, a lot of them are now called cloud architects. And the reason partly is because of the prevalence of technologies like what I'm talking about. It has actually reduced the need for having specialized infrastructure admins. So if you are a virtualization admin who knows VMware, probably 90% of customers run VMware at this time. So it's very easy to find a virtual admin who's skilled in VMware. They can actually take this and run the whole thing through vCenter. Same thing, if you have a Windows admin, they can take over and run this whole thing. So your need for skilled admins at this layer goes down, and those skilled admins can help you with modernizing your applications, which is a very important part. So they become cloud admins, or they become your environment admins for getting you to the next phase on your applications.
Excellent. And that's the sort of thing our customers need to understand, that they don't have to repurpose everybody. So, okay, excellent. Well, thank you, Sachin. So, as we wrap things up, and as we want to mention something that we're offering as a thank you for attending today. In addition to the beer, we wanted to offer up everyone a sizing assessment. And what this assessment is all about is it'll help answer 3 really important things for you. So if you're considering this from a Lenovo perspective, which Lenovo offerings might make the most sense for you and your environment? What solutions, well, what your environment would look like after implementing these particular solutions, and what it would take to get there, the roadmap, as Sachin talked about. How do you get there? So if there's no cost for something like this, it's not something that's intrusive, we would work with you in terms of collecting some specific data, and that data will help us provide guidance on how Lenovo solutions can best fit into your environment and provide value for your specific environment. So if you'd be interested in taking advantage of this, please let us know. We'd be happy to talk to you about it in detail. So I want to say thank you to everyone for attending our presentation today, and we hope that you found the information useful, but most importantly, we hope you found it relevant to your organization and what you're specifically doing today, especially in today's challenging times. So if you're interested in hearing more about Lenovo solutions or anything that Vicom does, please feel free to reach out to me or to your Vicom or Converge account manager. My contact info is on the slide here. I'll leave it up for a quick minute. And so as I get ready to turn things over to Matt to host our beer tasting, we want to say thank you again for joining us today, and thank you for considering both Lenovo and Vicom. So I want to say have a great day, everyone, and as I like to say at the end of all of these events, please stay safe during these times.